Alright, this is the beginning of a series of videos that will be focusing on some advanced 3D modeling, and we're going to get started with the basics. Here we have a simple outline of a shape, and since it's enclosed it does change color to a light blue, and since it's enclosed in an area, a definable area, we can extrude this. So I'm going to click on the extrude button, click on the center part of the outline there, and then it automatically starts to extrude. It assumes a direction of extrusion, which would be up in this case, and I want to go in both directions, so I want to extrude both up and down. So I could either do it in 2 steps, extrude it up and then do another extrude and extrude down, but there's an option here to extrude symmetrically. So when I click that option, it will extrude both up and down, which means I need to double the length, which is going to be a total of 2 inches. So now I'm going to click the check box, and that is simply our first part created there in 3D. I'm going to hide the part for now until we create our next part, and I'm going to reveal the frame sketch layer. Now we have a bike master layer which has a lot of information on it, and we will most of the time have that hidden, but we're going to be working a lot on the frame sketch, so I'm going to reveal that by clicking on the eyeball. And the next thing we want to model would be this, what I'm calling the seat post. So it's like the center part of the frame, and in order to sketch this, I would want to sketch a circle for the outside diameter of the pipe, and assuming this would be a hollow pipe, there would also be an inside diameter, so an inside edge and an outside edge. So if I go to extrude this current circle, even though it's the correct dimension, it's going to be extruding in this direction. I can include more. So you can see that's not the right way. I want it to extrude this way. So I need to create a sketch that is perpendicular to this drawing. So we're going to be creating a new plane. So I'm going to go ahead and click the X out of that, and we're going to try to create a plane that is perpendicular, so kind of viewed like this. So it should be drawing kind of like this, straight on, which is similar to the front. So when we create a new plane, there's several different options. There's a drop menu, and offset would be offsetting an existing plane. So let's say if I wanted to use the front plane, which is probably the closest plane that would work. So I want to offset it from its point of origin here over to this point. And if I knew that exact distance, I could tell it to move from here up to there. I don't know that distance. So there's another option, a plane point, which allows me to indicate where I want that plane to attach to in my drawing. So if I click the front option and have plane point as the option for where I want to place it, I can simply click somewhere on my drawing and it offsets to that location. So you can see this is very close to what I want to have my drawing to be, but it's not quite. It's still at an angle. It's not perfectly perpendicular to what I want to draw on. So there is a line here that if I could get my plane to line up with this line, that would be perfect. So I'm going to choose a different option. Go ahead and get out of that. So let's start a new plane, and let's go ahead and explore the other options we have. We have offset, plane point, line angle. So that sounds interesting. Let's go ahead and try that. So I'm going to choose the line angle and see if I can match it up with a line in my drawing. I'm going to click on this line here because that's the one that I want to draw on. And it looks like, without modifying this at all, it's exactly what I want. I want to be able to draw flat like that, perpendicular to the other drawing. So I'm going to accept that, and now I'm going to start to draw my circles. So I need a sketch that's going to be on this plane. And I'm going to view normal to this plane. Go ahead and rotate. There we go. Is that what I wanted? I want sketch 2. View normal, sketch plane. There we go. Oh no, I can't see the other circles. So that's helpful. So I'm going to draw a circle starting at the midpoint, and I can snap to this outer edge. That'll be the outside diameter. Oh, that was slightly off there. Let me escape out of that. Try again. Circle tool. I want to line it up right there, and then make it coincident to the outside. So that's lined up perfectly. Now I need to reference that inside diameter. So I'm still in the circle tool. I'm going to click on the same point and try to reference this intersection. But it doesn't show up as a point where I can make coincident to, so attach it there. I can't. That's because it's on a different sketch. So I need a way to reference that. So if I want to reference other sketch geometry, I need to use what's called the Use tool. So I'm going to click on that and reference this circle. That's going to place a connection point on either side of the circle where it intersects the drawing plane, and also it has a line indicating this circle intersects this plane all the way through from one point to the other. But now I have what I need, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to the circle tool, click on the center point, and out to one of the edges. So now I have an inside and an outside dimension for my pipe. So now I'm done with the sketch. I can click the check mark and now go to the extrude option and choose the boundary there. The direction is wrong, so I need to reverse that by clicking the arrow. I'm going to zoom out, and I'm going to drag the arrow. Whoops. Go ahead and click on the arrow there. And as I drag it out, the extrusion continues out, and I want to make sure it's past the outline for the bracket, so it extends beyond that. And then click the check mark. So now I have two parts. Part 1 is hidden, that's the bracket, so I'll go ahead and reveal that. And what I need to do next is trim off this pipe using the bracket as the boundary. So I'm going to be using the split tool. So click on that, and I want to split the pipe, so I'm going to select that. So the first thing to do is to select the parts you want to split. So I'm going to click on that. Indicates that part 2 is the one I'm going to split. Now I want to select the red option here so that I can select the entity I want to split with. So I'm going to click that to enable it. And then I'm going to choose the outside surface right here of part 1. Whoops, it didn't select. There we go, face of extrude 1. And it automatically generates 2 new parts. So we'll click the check mark to accept that. And then I'm going to see what we just created. So part 3 is the part that I no longer need. It was the extra part. So I can just simply hide it, or I could delete it by right-clicking it and select delete. That way it's no longer in my parts list. But it will still be in the list of features in case I ever need to bring that feature back. So I'm going to click the check mark to accept the delete. So now I have my first 2 parts created. So far, so good. The next part is going to require a little bit of drawing before we can find a correct placement for the plane. So the next thing I want to focus on is this area here. This would be a thick, elongated pipe, so it's sort of like an oval shape instead of a circle. So in order to draw what I want to draw, I need to have a plane that's perpendicular to these lines. So I want to somewhat be drawing kind of like from this angle. So I need to create some geometry that I can line up a plane to. So I'm going to need to enable and get inside my frame sketch. So I'm going to double click that. I'm going to just create some sketch geometry. So I'm going to use the construction line tool and select the line. And then somewhere along this path here, this line, I'm going to connect my construction line. And then I want to drag a line to the outside line, but I want it to be at a right angle. So you may need to play around with the angle of it until you get that screen tip that indicates it's perpendicular or a right angle. So I'm going to click there. Even though on the screen it doesn't look that way, I'm going to click there and then orbit and show you that it actually is perpendicular. So I want to make sure it is perpendicular. I'm going to escape because I'm done drawing lines, and now I'm ready to create my next plane. So I'm going to click the check mark to accept the sketch and then grab the plane tool, and I'm going to choose the same option, the line angle that we used before, and then click on this new line that I created, and make sure you click on the line and not the midpoint. So I'm going to click there, and notice what happened. We just created a new plane that is perpendicular to the other lines that we're trying to align our new drawing with. So that's perfect. So now that I have a new plane, I need to accept that plane, and I'm going to create a sketch and then select my new plane as the drawing plane. So now I'm going to start drawing, and I'm going to basically model a circle on either side and then some lines connecting the two circles together. So it's kind of an elongated oval shape. So I'm going to use a circle tool first, and I'm modeling just this half. So over here would be one half, over here is the other half. So I'm going to connect my circle somewhere on this line, but not on the midpoint. So somewhere in between the midpoint and the outside line, I'm just going to click to start my circle. And I'm going to make it coincident to the outside edge. And I'm going to dimension this circle and make it 1 inch exactly. Alright, now I want to mirror this on the other side. I could draw it, but I'm just going to mirror it over there. So I need a mirror line first. Excuse me. So I'm going to use the construction geometry and just simply create a vertical line. Doesn't matter how long it is. And now I'm going to mirror this on the other side. So I'm going to use the mirror tool, select the center line. It's asking for select the mirror line, so I'm going to click this. Then it says select entities to be mirrored, so I just want to mirror my circle over on the other side. So now I'm done mirroring. I'm going to press the escape key. Now I'm going to draw a solid line from the top of one circle to the top of the other. So I want it to be coincident. I also want it to be tangent. Oops, I somehow created two lines there. There we go. So I want this line to be tangent, so it's not just connected, it's tangent, it's perfectly on top. So I want to use the constraint for tangent. Select the circle and the line, and then do the same thing for the other circle and line. Now I want to mirror this line to the bottom. So I'm going to use the mirror tool again. Select the mirror line, which will be this one here, this dotted line that's going horizontal, and I'm going to choose this line to mirror on the other side. So now I have my basic outline, this elongated oval shape. But I need to get rid of these extra boundaries. So I'm going to use the trim tool, which is the scissor icon, and just trim out the inside circles. So now I have a nice, just clean area here that I can extrude. I'm done with my sketch. I'll click on the check mark, and then I'm going to just use the extrude option. Click on the inside boundary, and I'm going to this time I'm going to extrude 2 times because I want to extrude beyond this point, and then I also want to extrude beyond the bracket in the opposite direction. So I'm going to just extrude this way for the first time. Make sure it's through that front area. Click the check mark, and then I'm going to go right back into the extrude tool. Click on the same boundary but the opposite end. And I want to make sure that I'm adding to an existing part so that it all just becomes one solid. It should automatically default to that, but just in case, make sure you're not on a new part. You're clicking on add. So now I can drag this down until I have gone through the bracket, and click the check mark to accept that. Now for some reason it added a new part, so let me go ahead and undo that. Let's go back to the extrude, and let's just check it to see what happened here. So I click on the boundary, it's on add. As soon as I intersect that bracket though, it assumes I want to create a new part. So it just switched to new. So it switched from add to new, because I'm actually intersecting 2 different parts, this part and the bracket. So I want to add to an existing part, and now it needs me to choose which part to add to. So I want to merge with part 3. So it's merging with that existing part. Click the check mark. Now that's all one part. Part 3 is all that one thing there. Alright, now we're going to trim. We can trim one end because we have a part. So let's go ahead and trim. So I need to find the split option. Select my part that I want to split. And then I need to click here where it says entity to split with to enable that feature. And I'm going to orbit and view this face here of the bracket and select that. Click the check mark. Let's just view. So part 3 is the part that I want to keep. Part 4 I'm going to just hide. Make sure that that's the part that I want to get rid of. And then I'm going to right click and delete that. Click the check mark to accept the delete. Then over here we're not sure yet how we want to split this part because this part doesn't exist. So I'm going to go ahead and hide part 3 for now, and we're going to go ahead and create this part. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new plane, and I'm going to choose this line here, but I need to choose the option of line angle and match it up with this line here. So now that it's matched up, I'm going to see if I can draw a circle. I may need to use the use tool to reference some geometry, but we'll see what happens first. So I want to create a sketch on this plane. Go to the circle tool, and I can reference this for my center point, so I'm going to go ahead and click there. And I want to reference this point for the end point, for the diameter. So yes, that works. So we go ahead and click there, make it coincident. So now that's a very quick, simple sketch. I'm done with it. I'm going to click the check mark. And now I'm going to extrude this part. So I go to the extrude tool. I'm going to orbit a little bit here. Click on the region, and it's going the opposite direction I want it to. So I'm going to click the arrow. So now I have it go in the correct direction. And I want to extrude it all the way up to this point in my drawing. So if I knew the measurement, I could type in the measurement here, or if I grab this I can kind of guess, but I want an exact measurement. So I want to choose from the option, right now it's set to blind. I want to choose up to vertex. So I'm going to choose that option. Now I can choose something in my drawing as a vertex that will extrude to that point. So I'm going to click this point here. Now it extrudes all the way to that point. So I'm done creating my part, so I'm going to click the check mark. And now I'm going to reveal part 3. And we're going to see what happens when we split this. I know it's not going to work because I've done it before. So, but we're going to go through the motions. So let's use the split tool. Select the part that we want to split, which is this one here. And then we're going to select the entity to split with. And I want to split with this part here. Click the check mark, and it looks as though it worked. Let's go ahead and see what happened. So we have here part 4. Part 4 is the part that we want to keep. If I hide that, that's the one that we want to keep. Part 5 is actually inside this cylinder. So there's a part of this part that is on the left side of the cylinder. There's a part that's on the right side of the cylinder. There's also a part that is inside the cylinder. So that's part 5. Then we have a part 6, which is on the other side, the opposite end of the cylinder. So let's see what happens if I know I don't want the part that's inside the cylinder. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Click the check mark to delete it. And now I'm left with part 5 and part 4. So I want to get rid of part 5. So I'm going to go ahead and try to delete this. The check mark. It deletes everything. So I want to undo that step. So what's happened is we've split this part, and even though there are two solids that are separated from each other, they're still dependent on each other, because we split it with an object that actually the inside is split, which is its own part, the part that's inside the cylinder, and then everything outside of that is also its own part. So for some reason it remains dependent. So we need to fix that somehow. So we can't use this part yet. So I'm going to go back a few steps. Okay, let's go back till we've got that. Oops, I want to go forward. There we go. So this is right before the split. Before I do this, I need to create something that is going to cut it off to where there's nothing on the outside, on the other side of the cylinder. So right now I have a part that is on the left side and on the right side. So what I'm going to do is extrude a surface that I'm going to use to split the object first. So I'm going to use this line to generate a surface. So we use extrude, choose surface instead of solid. That will allow me to select lines. So I'm going to select this construction geometry, this line here, to extrude. And I need it to extrude both up and down. So I'm going to choose the symmetric option. And I'm going to make sure that's nice and large, so I'll go ahead and do like 3 inches. So that goes through the part completely. So now I'm going to use that to split my part. So I'm going to click the check mark to accept that new surface, and I'm going to use the split option, choose the part, and then click on the red, and then choose the surface. Click the check mark. So now I have part 5 and part 4. Part 4 is the one I don't need. If I hide it, that's the part I don't need. So I'm going to go ahead and right click and delete that. So that's gone now. I'm left with part 4. I want to trim that off exactly with the cylinder. So I'm going to split it one more time. Select this object, and then select the entity to split with, and select the cylinder. And then click the check mark. So now I have a little piece that's inside the cylinder that I'm going to go ahead and delete. So now my part remains and it ends right at the cylinder point. Okay, at this point we're going to stop the video and continue in another one.